Earlier in the show, we mentioned that business leader Rick Caruso had endorsed gubernatorial candidate Matt Mahan. You see the two of them there with Councilmember Tracy Parks today, talking about the Pacific Palisades neighborhood and where there has been some fire damage. You see them there, Tracy Parks, Rick Caruso, Matt Mahan, others as well. Caruso has been critical of the pace of rebuilding, and LA Mayor Karen Bass as well. He ran against her in 2022. He chose not to get into this race. Mahan, meanwhile, is running for governor, and he attended a roundtable discussion on rebuilding from the Palisades fire. Across down in Altadena, a new study from UCLA says about 74% of rental units in the Eaton Fire area have made no progress towards rebuilding. The study's authors looked at rebuilding permits, property sales, real estate listings. The report also found that about 2/3 of rent-stabilized homes in Altadena had severe structural damage. There's a conversation about rebuilding and making sure that Altadena feels like it did before to the degree possible. For the people that are displaced by the fires, statistics like the ones that I shared make that feel very challenging. Over the course of this last time since the fires, we've checked in with various people who have been victims of the fire, who have survived the fires, the preferred nomenclature. Joining me now is one of them. It is Andrew Wessels. He's part of the Eaton Fire Survivors Network and was the lead author on the group's response to the SoCal Edison's draft settlement offer. And he's here in studio again. It's so great to see you again, Andrew.
Thank you so much for having me back, Amrit.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Doing well. I was thinking about, first, thank you for bringing me back. I was here for the 1-year anniversary. And I was thinking that felt so introspective, that moment. And this moment, a few weeks on, feels a little bit different. The feelings are a little bit different. So excited to talk about that today.
Yeah, well, I'd like to talk about how the feelings have changed and why. Before we get into that, I do want to check in with you. I want to hear about how your kiddos are doing, if you don't mind sharing, because you shared so beautifully last time. And also the home, the smoke damage. Are you able to get back now? What are you seeing?
So there's both been no progress and also a lot of progress on that. No progress, nothing has started on our home. All that we keep learning is that there's more and more work necessary. Most recently, our insurance company agreed with us that our HVAC unit, our air conditioning system, should not ever be turned on again because it's filled with lead.
Yeah. That seems like a fair thing to be able to get stipulated and agreed to, but we also know it's hard to get insurance companies to agree to much there.
It's very hard to get them to do it, and the fact that it took 13, almost 14 months to get there, I think is kind of emblematic of where this rebuild is.
Yeah, so you're saying, there's been a change in some of the feelings. So and as we're taking a look here at your home, that's you with your mask on as you're making your way through the belongings, and it's just, as you mentioned then, it was tough for your kids to even be able to go back, and they're trying to understand why. Is that part of why things are feeling like they're changing?
Well, people in the Eaton Fire Survivors are really kind of facing a cliff. 50, 60, 70% of survivors will be running out of housing coverage over the coming 5 to 6 months. And at the same time, only about 33% of fire survivors have stable housing. This means that we're entering a homelessness crisis. I know this in part because my family is facing this. We are not back in our home. Work has not started. We have about 6 months left before we run out of housing support or housing coverage from our insurance plan. And so what do we do at that point if the home is not rebuilt for people who've lost their home, if their home has not been repaired, such as ours, but you don't have any money to live? And so people have started entering homelessness. And at the same time, people are still fighting to get basic insurance coverage that they've paid for. And on the other side, Edison has failed to step up and provide any meaningful support for anyone who's facing these needs.
We've talked about this, the ongoing litigation with SoCal Edison. They still have not accepted any responsibility legally, formally, for one of the leading theories for the defunct transmission line, right? This letter that the Eaton Fire Survivors Network sent to SoCal Edison, which you were a part of, asking for, and you can update me, $200,000 for people without having to waive rights to litigation. Is that getting anywhere? Where's the conversation?
Well, it depends on what you mean by getting anywhere. 200 area nonprofits have signed on to this. Our state senator, Sasha Perez, has endorsed it. The Community Clergy Foundation has endorsed it, and the California Community Foundation has also endorsed it. So in terms of the community saying this is what we need, yes. that has continued moving forward. In terms of Edison, Edison's movement, no. Edison has decided that they're okay with people entering homelessness as a result of their fire, and have prioritized what they call their fast pay program, which to date has only paid out to approximately 82 people.
Yeah.
That's 82 of approximately 10,000 homes.
Yeah, and I want to just explain the dynamics of that program, assuming it's the same thing, because I don't know that I've heard the fast pay terminology before, but it's this idea that SoCal Edison is making money available to survivors who had homes damaged, destroyed, have been displaced, as long as they waived rights to any future litigation against SoCal Edison.
Yes, and you have to follow the formula that's prescribed in this plan, whether or not it actually corresponds to the financial damages that you've sustained. And then once you sign that you do waive your rights, it's doing this instead of going to litigation.
And so 80 some odd people getting that fast pay. Do you know how many people who have applied? Because people also choosing not to apply because they want to still retain their ability to get part of a settlement.
Many people want to retain their ability, and in part because the one upside of having the formula is you know exactly before you even enter the program roughly what you're going to get. But there's just such a big gap between what Edison's program pays and what the actual financial damage is that the typical Eaton Fire survivor has. I'll just use myself as an example. Our gap right now between what insurance has paid us and the cost to repair our home are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Edison's compensation plan would give us $10,000.
Yeah.
So when we see that offer doesn't even get us anywhere close to being able to rebuild. So my only option is to continue fighting with insurance and hoping that we can get that money from insurance.
And but that doesn't mean that you're stopping putting pressure on SoCal Edison,
No.
of course, right? But what does that pressure look like?
Well, we're continuing to advance this program, our housing relief program, which, as you said, is designed to give funds not to everyone, but to everyone who has a legitimate housing need. So up to $200,000 to people who have qualified housing needs. This is basically just to make sure that nobody goes homeless.
And they're not playing ball on that. So what feels like the next step of pressure or teeth that you can apply to SoCal Edison to get what you need there?
Well, we're continuing to work with our elected leaders and network. We've also, the Eaton Fire Survivors Network was also invited to be on working groups for this law, SB 254, which is looking at the wildfire fund and how to make it actually work for California citizens, because it has certainly failed to in its current iteration. And so we're using that as a platform to speak with stakeholders to try and work this into any future settlements and wildfire fund work.
Yeah, these kinds of moments are the bright spots in this, right? We've had Assemblymember John Harabedian on, who represents folks in that area, and he's talked about AB 1642, amongst many other things. And this Assembly bill is creating what the New York Times has called the first of its kind science-based standards for toxic testing for the things like smoke damage, which it's hard to believe doesn't exist before, because otherwise the insurance company could just say, oh, we think that you have toxic or not, but there's no science-based standards before this. No, and that's been one of the big problems is, lead has standard regulations about what is allowed, what's not allowed, but many of these other toxins that everyone agrees you should never be exposed to, but nobody knows what the numbers are, what is okay, because a lot of these things do exist in some minute forms in every home. Right. And that if you look hard enough, you can, but what is that line? And so we have that for lead. We need that for additional toxins so that there's an agreed upon standard to make sure that everyone has a safe home to go back to. What's been working so far for everybody right now? When you think about the ways in which the Eaton Fire Survivors Network has come together, I know community, there's morale boosting to that, but what is a moment that feels like this has been constructive and that people are getting support, solidity, strength from it? Well, I mean, anytime that we come together for a press conference or an event, we certainly feel a sense of solidarity. But also in terms of, when we do those things, we also see results. So kind of at the end of last year, with press conferences around Edison, insurance, and the County of Los Angeles's open investigation into State Farm, we started getting text messages from hundreds of people about getting sudden payments from insurance.
And we've unlocked. We went back and did the receipts. We've unlocked hundreds of millions of dollars of payments so that people can advance their rebuilds. And so whenever we see those, that heartens us. And that, going back to Edison, that's how we know that continuing to put pressure, we will get there. And we do believe we will get there. I mean, Edison just the other day had their annual report, and their profits tripled from 2004. Their profits went up $3.5 billion from the previous year on the backs of the Eaton Fire.
Well, I mean, that is something to unpack there. And I want to say that we're inviting SoCal Edison onto the show to talk about that. We're out of time now. And I can imagine what survivors need beyond just support is probably money. And so I just leave that with the audience. And I want to thank you for coming in and having these conversations with us. You're a great spokesperson for everyone that's experiencing this out there. And it's great to see you, Andrew.
Right. Thank you so much, Comrade.
Conversation, of course, about the Eaton Fire with Mr. Wessels, who has been giving us so much of this direct insight. We appreciate him for that. Stay with us. We've got more coming up. Stay with us.